Welcome. Welcome to Black Civics Collective. I am your guest host today, Mark Stevenson. I am subbing in for my girl Friday Jones today on this lovely Sunday. So before we get into it, let me start with something foundational because we throw the word civics around, but sometimes we forget what it actually means. So let's look at what civics actually means. Civics is the study of the privileges and the obligations of citizens. Citizenship isn't just about rights, it's about what we do, how we participate, how we show up, vote, join a civic group, call your senator, run for office, attend a city council meeting, give public comment, write an op-ed. These aren't suggestions, these are tools. And that brings me to this thing that you can do before you vote. Because there's work to do. There's work to do. Okay. So this checklist is something everybody watching should screenshot right now. Okay. Do you have a physical address? Do you know who currently holds the offices in your district? Do you know if your state is open or closed primary? Have you looked at their voting record? You know, and then once you do all that, we go down to step 10, right? Which is now you go vote. So if you don't know what you need to do, I would highly suggest that you screenshot this right now. So that way you will have all the tools necessary if you're going to go cast your ballot. We're going to come back to that. Now, one more thing before I bring my guest in. Okay. June 20th, down in Holly Springs, Mississippi. Okay. Care Now is presenting a Juneteenth event. Don't knock them for the colors. Don't knock them for the colors. Okay. All right. So Care Now presents the 2026 Juneteenth parade at the courthouse. It's going to be from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is going to be in Holly Springs, Mississippi. This is being put together with the Elmer Geronimo Platt Gun Club. It's going to feature Kyra, Arnisha King, G-Note Unit, and Bird Williams performing live. There's going to be a speaker, Ronald Cortez Hurd, a.k.a. Brother Ron, the activist. All right. And if you're in the Memphis, Mississippi corridor, this is where you need to be on June 20th. That's about 2 weeks away. Mark it. All right. So let me bring in our panel. So I got 3 people in here who are doing actual work, not just talking about it. Marsha Parsons, deep in DMV politics. That's DC, Maryland, Virginia. What's moving? What's at stake? What our people need to know right now. I got Mike Brown. He gonna be focusing on what's going on in Texas, a state with a massive Black population, a political landscape people sleep on every single cycle. And then my homeboy Chris Lotson, coming to us from CJAC, the Coalition for Just and Equitable California. And if you follow California reparations, Chris has been on the front lines, literally in the hearing rooms, going toe to toe with these legislators. So, Marshall, 30 seconds. Glad that you could be here today. So who are you and why does the DMV matter right now?
Well, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for having me on this august panel of great men who are here to speak about politics. Why the DMV matters? Well, we are the seat. This area is really the home, the seat of not only national politics, but worldwide politics. And as the old saying goes, politics is local, but it all seems to stream here. So no matter who represents you, especially on the national level, be it your congressperson, senator, or definitely the president, it all comes here. And this is the hub, the center to get things done in politics. What happens here will definitely trickle down and matriculate to your neck of the woods. And I'll speak about it in a little bit, but the DC area, all of it, Maryland, DC, and Virginia are getting ready for some very important voting, primary wise.
Okay. All right. So Mike, Texas. big black population. So kind of tell what you're doing down there in Texas and why it matters.
Yeah. Good morning, family. Mike Brown, right here in Houston, Texas. I've got two races that I want people to pay attention to, because we just had a generational shift in the 18th congressional district, and we need to motivate and activate and make sure that the younger generation has took over at the 18th congressional district, knows what type of reparations we are talking about, and no, we're not talking about a study. And the second race is probably going to be one of the most expensive Senate races down here with Tallarico and Paxton. And I briefly chatted with you, Mark, and the team when the Paxton got chosen, and I said we got to watch this one for potential low voter turnout, and they're going to be spending a lot of money, so we might have some foreign influences for that election. So happy to talk about that as well.
Okay, all right, and then Chris out there in CJ, California. Yeah. So, how you doing, man?
Bless. It's early. It's super early out here. Got the sun shining. Blessings, brother Mike, brother Marshall. Oh, it's good to see my families, brother. Everybody, Marshall, Mike, and of course, the family. The behind the scenes, Dana, everybody. Shout out to Friday too. Big shout out to Friday. And yeah, a lot going on. I was thinking about your question, brother, as you were asking and taking some notes here. By the way, I love the civics definition and love to know before you vote. I screenshotted that. I'm taking that. I'm posting that. I'm using that because that's real talk. But to your question, brother, why does California matter? Why, and just sort of, connecting it to what my brothers are saying here. So one, I think California matters for reparations, of course, because it is really the front line, if not one of the front lines for reparations at the state level in California, in the country rather. So what, California came out first and has been doing a lot of the things legislatively first. So what that means is that we experience all of the things, or a lot of the things that folks who are coming next and coming alongside us, will also experience, too. But they get to see us do it and see us, experience it first. So that's important for the rest of the reparations movement. I think the folks who are actually working for it's also important because of how successful we can be and are, and how that matters to how successful others can be and are, or wherever they're doing reparations statewide, locally, of course, and then of course nationally too. And then lastly, I think California is important. Just on the stepping out of the specific reparations lane and talking more politics wise. Y'all know California is a big state. A lot of people. Well, a lot of what happens here influences what happens in other states. Of course, California has a target drawn around it by the president, and people from California generally then go on to national office. I think we all know the worst kept secret here in California is that our current governor is running for president, is going to be on the presidential campaign and running for president in the next year or so. So California is important for all those reasons. And I'm gonna leave it there, and looking forward to building with my brothers.
Yeah. So Chris, I'm going to start with you because CJ, y'all got some things going on out there right now that people need to know about. So this St. Paul reparations listening session that y'all got going, that's coming up in Arlington. There is I think we have a flyer for that. The St. Paul.
I think you're talking about the. Are you talking about the Juneteenth event?
Yeah, okay. It's on June. It's on June 13th.
Got you.
Yeah, it's on June 13th. The St. Paul Recovery Act Community Reparations Listening Session. So, do you know what's going on with this one, Chris?
No, that's actually, I don't think that's ours. Ours is the we've got the event on the 23rd, I believe. I think our Ohio event's on the 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. That's and that's important, brother. Thank you for raising it, brother. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on in and around the Juneteenth time, and I'll make sure we get that flyer to you, brother, so you can drop it out there too. But
Okay.
yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on. So let me just break it down quickly if I can. We realized last year, of course, I think we all realized, and Brother Mike was saying this a minute ago, we don't need no more studies. Okay. We already had a reparations study here in California, but last year our state passed a bill to do another reparations study, this time like 3 to 5 years long. And so we're obviously, not messing with that, for a polite way to say it. But we realized that we don't want to wait for the state. We actually can't wait for the state to set up a process and spend years and lots of money doing what we already know how to do, which is demonstrate and show that we are descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. So we've set up a bunch of great genealogy workshops across the state to do and to really show the state that it doesn't take 3 to 5 years to figure out how people can show that they are descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. And the stuff that we have going on in and around Juneteenth, starting June 13th, as you were saying, and then continuing through June 23rd here in Sacramento, where I am, on June 13th, we have a genealogy workshop, free genealogy. On Saturday, June 20th, we're in LA and Oakland, same thing, free genealogy. I believe the same weekend we're in New York too. The New York family's pulling up. The Ohio family's pulling up. There we go. Right on. Appreciate it. There it is. Right on. So that's the first of what probably is like 5 different free genealogy workshops happening here across California and across the country, starting June 13th next week here in Sacramento. So yeah, there's a lot going on, brother.
Yeah. Awesome. All that. Now, you talked about it. You said, so Gavin Newsom, he signed SB 518 and created the Bureau for, I guess, the Descendants of American Slavery. Y'all
right.
CJEC is saying that it's a bureaucratic shell. I had Tiffany on, and
Love Tiffany,
she
man.
She said it was a bureaucratic shell. It is delaying real repair.
She's right.
So for people who haven't been following,
Sure.
What did SB 518 actually do, and what did it fail to do for the American freedmen descendants?
Yeah, right on. Great question. So SB 518, Senate Bill 518 here in California was a bill passed and signed into law last year by the governor. It had with it another bill, what we call a companion bill, which is Senate Bill 437. But what Senate Bill 518 did was create, at some point in the future, a bureau called the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery. And that bureau is supposed to be specifically to do genealogy work and to do a couple other things specifically for, at least in the way that we envision something like this, specifically for people who are descendants of those who were enslaved in this country, freedmen.
Okay.
So as Tiffany said, right? So that's what our vision of something like that is. But what Senate Bill 518 did was create a bureau that would start to operate here in California sometime years later. That although it says Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery on its title, on its name, is not actually if you specifically read the language of the bill that created it, it says very clearly that this bureau intends to expand to serve, quote, both the descendants and ... So once you got both descendants, and it doesn't matter what you said after that, right? It's not specifically for us anymore. So that's what the bureau actually intends to do. It intends to expand its work right now to serve people who are descendants of, or people who are not freedmen. The other thing that we noticed about the bill originally when it came out was that this bureau was supposed to be put inside of California's Department of Justice, which is California's largest law enforcement agency. Probably the country's second largest law enforcement agency outside of the federal Department of Justice. And we didn't think, and we still don't think, any reparations system should run through any law enforcement agency, operation, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a huge red flag for us also last year. So, but to your question again, what the bill did and what the bill is supposed to do, it's supposed to do genealogy work and some other things for, on its face, the descendants, in reality, both descendants and at some point in the future. And this bill, as I said, has a companion bill to it, which is a study bill that makes the Bureau have to wait or a genealogy study before the Bureau can start doing its work. And that's that study that I was talking about a few minutes ago.
Wow. Study after study after study after study. California. Yeah, hey, y'all people who are watching that are from Cali. Hey, Kristen told y'all what's going on. There are genealogy workshops all throughout the state going on. Connect with CJEC. We'll make sure that we have those. We'll put those flyers back up at the end so y'all can see that and get connected. So I'm gonna switch lanes. Marshall, DMV, and this urgency is real.
Yeah.
Y'all got some primaries. So DC got a primary on June 16th. Maryland got theirs on June 23rd. And then Virginia got a primary on August 4th. Okay, so DC votes in 9 days. And you got Eleanor Holmes Norton. She's been the delegate for that seat for 30 years. She's been in that seat. She ain't running no more. Okay, so whoever wins that Democratic primary on the 16th is almost certainly going to be the next delegate for DC. So that seat is open right now.
Yeah.
So what are the races in the DMV that you got circled right now, and what is actually at stake in each one of them?
Well, to not take up too much time, one of the main seats that's happening in the DMV is District 5. District 5 in the state of Maryland is parts of Prince George's and Anne Arundel County. And the reason why this is important is because, okay, you spoke about Eleanor Holmes Norton in D.C. We love Sister Eleanor. She's been there a little too long. So if you've ever been to her office on Capitol Hill, it's one of the most palatial, just beautiful. When you walk in, it's almost like, you know, the when you walk into the castle in Coming to America. But unfortunately she's been there too long, and you need some new blood, some fresh blood in DC. But there's another seat, District 5 in Maryland. This was the seat that was held by longtime Representative Steny Hoyer. He has been in office for ages, so he has decided to step down, and there are several representatives who are looking to take his seat in District 5. So I'm pretty much looking at that in the area. All state Senate and state Senate and state representative seats are open. Of course, you know, all of the main highways and main intersections in the DC area are littered with everybody's placards, you know, like vote for me, vote for me. I briefly want to go back to that checklist that you gave at the beginning of this stream. Quick story. I was in the barbershop this morning trying to get fresh for our broadcast because I was looking a little gruff. And you go into the barbershop, the scene is anywhere between 10 to 12 black men, half of them shouting about politics, what we need to do, who we gonna vote for, half of them like, I don't want to vote. So the checklist you gave is basically, I'm sitting in the chair and I'm asking grown men anywhere between the age of 19 to maybe as old as 60. Who in here is registered? Who isn't registered? You know, who you looking for? And it's like two of the people in the barbershop are looking at me like, okay, this brother about to give us a lesson. He may be informed. The others are looking like, what are you talking about? And so I'm saying all these people that are like asking for your vote, you know, do you know what they're, you know, coming into office to give you? What are they promising? And most of them are like, no, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to vote. So I just wanted to say with that checklist, and those who screenshot it, please, but that's a good checklist for people who are registered and who are not registered. Mainly for those who aren't registered, of those 9 steps you take before you vote, I would say do all of them, the first 5 or 6. You could do within the first 15 minutes. It's not until you get to steps 7 and 8 that it takes a little time. That's unregistered. Those who are registered, I would say, you know, just revisit the last few steps, you know, not introduce, but get involved, or like find out, like, you know, some of the voting record and like some of the platform points that you know, candidates that you may be interested in are you know, like involved with, and what you check out. But like I said, District 5. Oh, also in Washington, D.C., all council seats are up. There's going to be a new mayor. People are having a fit in the DC area about who is going to be the new mayor. The city has changed, although African Americans still make up 45% of Washington DC. A little phrase I like to use: it's no longer chocolate city; it's more chocolate chip city. So politically, you got more people who have more. It's not just going to be, I do believe a Democrat will get it, but you got some people who are more in the center, not so much far left or leaning more to the left. You got some people with some strict Republican values who are saying they're Democrat, but we're of the age where we were coming up. There was an old term called a Reagan Democrat. You may vote Democrat, you may have a Democratic platform, but many of the things that you believed in are within the Republican realm. So those are some things that you need to look at for DC. To be honest with you, there's no one in the city that I'm really looking at that's progressive enough. That's there are a few, but there are some that have some backing that's a little questionable. So, I'm not going to, try to smear any names. I couldn't give you a name. I'm just interested to see who's going to take Eleanor Holmes Norton's seat and who is looking to be the next, DC, who's looking to be the next DC mayor. But District 5 out here in the state of Maryland, that's what I'm keeping my eye on, because that seat has been held by Steny Hoyer since, since I believe the early 90s. So he's been in for a long time.
It seems like a lot of these people are not choosing to run, and when they've been in seats for 30-something years, they kind of recognize the changing of the guard. And that kind of leads me, Marshall, because y'all over there in Virginia, they tried to do some redistricting stuff, and then
Mark, let me say this here. That's one of the reasons why the primary got pushed back to August the 4th. And they were looking to, even with the gutting of Section 2, it hasn't come to Maryland. I'm definitely sure it's not coming to DC or maybe even Delaware, not just the DMV, but the Delmarva area. But one of the main reasons why they pushed back, Virginia should have already had their primary. They didn't. So they pushed it back to August the 4th. As a matter of fact, early voting, it's June the 16th for the main primary day, but early voting in DC starts next week. In Maryland, early voting starts the week after. Virginia is key because in Virginia, starting June 19th up until so you got half of June, all of July to do early voting. So all the people who are looking at this, and you got a lot of time, or not a lot of time, but you got a good opportunity to check out these candidates, these incumbents, their voting records, do your early voting. And if you want to, or you got time to really hone in on candidates' records so that August the 4th you could become not only registered if you're unregistered, but be a more informed voter. That's what I'm looking at.
Awesome. Yeah, because they tried to flip those congressional seats. They thought they were going to try to get slick. They tried to push that through, and then the Republicans sued and got struck down by this conservative court.
Yeah.
And so Mike, Texas, people act like I don't know, man. They act like it's a lost cause for black voters out there in Texas, man. I think that might be a mistake because the primary was back in March, right? And then y'all had some runoffs that were May 26th. And now we're in general election mode now. November 3rd is the target. So you talked about the two races, the one down there and down by Houston, and then the big Senate race. So Texas has a large black population, but historically low black turnout. Low black turnout in a non-presidential year. So what is the actual barrier, and what's like the temperature on the ground right now?
Well, let me pivot back to what Marshall was saying about some of our most senior congressional people, either choosing not to vote, or in this case, we had Christian Menifee, who's 38, that was going up against Al Green, who is in his upper 70s. And, Christian Menifee came out on top. The platforms were pretty much similar, to be honest with you. And so it came, at least the temperature as being reported, it came down to, hey, we want generational change, or we want an experienced person there. And I think, not to be too morbid, the last two congressional people died in office, which is Sheila Jackson Lee and Sylvester Turner. And so I think with that as a backdrop, it was like, we need to get somebody younger in where we don't have to keep going through these, traumatic changes in our, representation. I think that it's apathy, honestly. I'm looking at the numbers. Christian Menifee had like 20,000 plus votes. Al Green had a little under 10,000 for a district that has 791,000 residents in it, right? And so I think it's apathy. I think you typically see this, pattern during a non-presidential election cycle where, you don't have that huge draw. But also, I hope some of the younger folks in the district are starting to look at some of these politicians a little differently and saying, hey, what have you actually delivered, to us? Sporadically, I'm out in the street and I do talk with folks, and, I do get that question. It's like, why, what are we voting for? And again, I just told you their platforms are the same. Both of those platforms don't explicitly talk about reparations, but they spoke about reparations, both candidates in their election cycle. And I think the shining part of this is, I think there's an opportunity to engage Christian Menifee as someone that's not part of that, old guard, DNC, loyalist type vibe. There's an opportunity to engage him on what reparations actually should look like. Demetria K, shout out to her, friend of the show. She was on one of our Black Civics podcasts. She actually called into the local NPR station down here when Christian Menifee was doing the interview. And she brought up the fact that, say, hey, how do you get Black folks back, onto this election cycle when they feel like you're not doing anything up for them? And he brought up reparations, and spoke passionately about it. And again, his version of that is what he's seeing being brought up, which is HR 40. We know HR 40 is a flawed bill. It has some of that Black and language type of language that Chris spoke about in the bill, descendants of this. So we need to better frame the argument specifically with the legal challenges. And I think we have an opportunity there. Again, I'm not putting all of my hope in it, but he is an attorney. I think we can come to him with an argument that, speaks to the legal challenges that HR 40 is going to face and give him an alternative option. I've seen a lot of commentary on social media saying, well, he's the same as, he's a younger Al Green. He's the same, We still have to engage, quite frankly. These are the folks that we have in there until we're in a place, both financially and raising candidates on our own that support our values, our interests. We have to continue to engage the folks that are getting in office. And I would rather, start that dialogue now. So that's something that, I'm pushing for, and I hope the folks that are in Houston that hear this message, that agree with what we're saying, that live in his district specifically, because we know that the politicians respond to the citizens that are in their district. If you believe what we believe in terms of a lineage-based, a status-based approach, then you should be engaging Christian Menifee right now, because he's going to breeze through the general. That district is solidly blue. So take the opportunity to start engaging him now. He's already up there in Congress. He's going to breeze through. Take the opportunity to engage with him now about what this actually should look like.
Awesome. And then you got the governor, the attorney general, state house races going on.
Yeah.
You talked about the Senate race, which is going to be one of the most expensive ones. I know they're about to just Democrats feel like that they really got a place with Tallarico. I don't know how the black voters out there feel about him, considering because Jasmine Crockett was in that race.
Yep.
And there was a lot of little innuendos.
Yeah.
Which of those races, the ones, the governor, the attorney general race, any of the state house races, the Senate race, which of those races you feel may have the most direct impact on Black Texans' day-to-day lives?
I'm gonna, obviously the local state house does. We'll see the impact of that. I'm really looking at the Senate race. I'm not looking at the governor's race. No disrespect to the Democrat challenger. Greg Abbott, as of January, has a war chest of over $106 million. No, it's over, to the point that Greg Abbott is lending his political voice to help push his party's candidates, such as they are, like Kim Paxton, that is basically a mirror image of Trump with the amount of, incidents that he's been involved in, so to speak. Okay. And so, to me, the governor's race is not a challenge. And just for context, a Democrat has not won a statewide election in Texas since 1994. Their closest opportunity is the race I'm going to talk about now, which is Paxton and Tallarico. And to your point, Mark, you talked about Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett. There were a lot of Black folks upset, particularly Black women that support the Democrat Party. I saw a lot of videos where there was a lot of outrage, particularly at DNC leadership, Tallarico for his comments, about the mediocre Black man comment that he was saying that got taken out of context, whatever. And there had a lot of folks that say they weren't voting. Similarly, on the Republican side, John Cornyn got defeated. There were a lot of Republicans here that like his brand of politics and don't really like Kim Paxton's brand of politics, to be honest with you. I'm a quote from this NPR article. You had John Taylor, chair of the Department of Political Science and Geography he is at UTSA. He said Cornyn and voters do not like Kim Paxton. They still don't like Kim Paxton. It's going to be an uphill battle to try to convince the majority to somehow support him. They may sit on their hands and stay home. I don't think many of them will vote for Tallarico necessarily, but not voting is just as important as voting in the general election.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a faction that don't necessarily want to go with Tallarico. Remember, Barack Obama endorsed Tallarico. He did not endorse Jasmine Crockett. You did not get the support from the top of the DNC, Hakeem Jeffries and those folks. They did not.
That's right.
They did not endorse Jasmine Crockett.
You are absolutely right.
That, bulldog politics going after Trump they saw her as, that's not really the candidate we want in the Senate. We want this polished, state rep from Austin, and they threw their support around him. And so you may still have some black folks that are like, I'm not voting for him. I'm staying home. Now, the recent uprising of sorts with the Voting Rights Act and things like that, that may change their mind, but there may still be some that were like, I'm not voting for him. I don't like what they did to Jasmine Crockett. On the other side, it's like, hey, I don't get down with Kim Paxton's politics. I may stay home. So you might have a whole bunch of money poured in, or you probably will have a whole bunch of money poured into this election just to drive voter turnout. And it may still not be there, So this one is going to be close to watch. They're already putting out polls saying Tallarico is ahead 47% to 44%. We will see how that goes. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Republicans will kind of rally behind and vote for him at the end of the day because he's Trump-like. He got the Trump endorsement. We've seen a couple of chinks in the armor there on the endorsement front, but I think they will come to Jesus, Trump Jesus, so to speak, and end up voting for him.
Oh, okay. All right, then. So a lot going on in these 3 states, a lot going on. So we're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back and we're going to have a roundtable discussion to close this one out. So I thank you 3 gentlemen for coming in, and everybody that's tuned in live. Put your comments in the chat. We'd love to see it. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Welcome. We are the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants. Our mission is to advance the national movement for reparations. The United States Office of Management and Budget set 5 minimum standards for collecting racial data. The black race is defined as a person having origin in any of the black racial categories of Africa. NAASD has recommended that the OMB disaggregate data to accomplish 3 goals: decouple race from ethnicity, create an ethnic term that exclusively identifies descendants of persons enslaved in the United States, and create an ethnic term that preserves the American freedmen political status. The ethnogenesis of the African American identity is a result of ethnocide. The identity is from a people with shared history. Race identity plus ethnic identity equals peoplehood. Together, we can fix this dilemma with the OMB. We can build a coalition, grow the movement, and create a unified demand. What can you do to get involved? You can join NAASD today at www.naasd.org. You can email the OMB using our toolkit, or you can donate to NAASD so that we can continue this work. Thank you for your time, and stay connected with us on social media at NAASDORG. We are on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can also sign up for our newsletter at www.naasd.org.
Okay, we're gonna bring them all back. Okay. Thank you all for staying engaged with us. So I'm gonna let's open this up, all 3 of you. So DMV, Texas, California. What is one thing that Black voters across all 3 regions are getting wrong in 2026 midterms? So we'll start with Chris. Start with you.
That's a great question. Getting wrong in the midterms. Wow. I would say one thing I think here in California specifically, if I could talk about here, one thing I think we're getting wrong about the midterms is that that the problem right now is the Republicans. I think on mass, and I think on large, that there is still, even with all of the work that's been going on, even with all of the amazing progress that's happened, really, to help all people across here in California, and I guess across the country too, realize that our problems are not the Republicans. Our problems are the big party that we keep putting our support behind for nothing in return. That's still too big of a problem across the electorate. I haven't seen the turnout and the exit results for California races here, so I haven't seen the turnout like racially broken down. But we have right now here in California, let's take the governor's race for a example. We have right now leading a Democrat and a Republican. So California could very likely have a Democrat and versus a Republican in our 2026 general election later in November. California has a top two candidate primary system here. We call it a jungle primary. So like in our primaries, every candidate's on the ballot from both parties, and the top two, regardless of party, get to advance to the general election, so long as neither one of the candidates gets 50% of the vote. So here in California right now, the top Democrat is Xavier Becerra. He has about 27-ish% of the vote. Right behind him, or so nearly tied, but shortly behind him, is Steve Hilton, who's a Republican. Becerra is a Democrat, and Hilton is somewhere in the 26-ish, 25-ish% range too. Now that may change because California, I think, as folks have been hearing about across the country, and the president has pointed this out many, many times now, that California has a very crazy primary system where we have an entirely, every single voter who's registered gets a mail-in ballot. So we have a heavily mail-in ballot system, and that means that people mail in their ballots, and those ballots get to the centers for people to count them after the election, the last day of the election. So the last day of the election was June 2nd here. It's June 7th, right? We still don't know who the winners of these races are 5 days later. That's crazy. Right? But because of this kind of system, right, and because of what we've seen here, with the two top leading candidates, I still think, when you look at the results, we'll see a large number of the Black vote turnout went to one of the Democrats, and I think that's still too big of a problem. I think that is the biggest thing that's focused. That's the biggest problem for us here in these midterms, and I think that's going to be a problem also in the 2020. In the generals too. But it's becoming less of a problem, right? Because of the work that people like us are doing, and people across the country seeing that, here in California, for example, this state's been run by the Democratic Party for at least 16 years in a row, top to bottom. And at least 16 years, I'm making the one exception for Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was our governor. And before that, I mean, if you take that out, it goes back like 50 years of like Democrat rule, 50, 60 years of total Democrat rule. And if you like what's going on in California, then you like that. But if you're like most of us here in California who don't like what's going on here in California, then you don't like that. And you can only blame the party that's been in power, both at the local level and at the state level. And that is the party of the Democrats. And something has to change. And the problem still is that not enough of us see that yet, but that problem is getting better.
Okay. Hey, they need to see it. All right. So the DMV, Marshall, please, because y'all about to go through some stuff up there. What do you think? we're gonna be getting wrong in the midterms?
I can tell you up front, to piggyback on Brother Chris, what he said, it's not even so much Republican. I think it's Trump fatigue. You have several candidates who are running for Congress here in the state because the congressional seats are up. So people are running hard for like certain districts and so forth for the congressional districts. And almost every ad from Democrats is, I can fight Trump. I can stop Trump. It's not just Trump. It's the fact that like both houses are Republican ruled. So it's the fatigue of Trump. Like if I get in, I'm going to be that force, that finger in his face. I can make the change to stop Trump. And of course, you know that we're not just about, Republicans, Democrats, independents. It's like, okay, what are the things you need in your community? Like, what's your platform? What is going to bring about, change in your community for the better? And to me, it's not even anything broad based. It's just we're sick of Trump. Our electricity bills are up. Gas is starting to come down in this DMV area, but it's still astronomically high. So as long as you just tag, I'm going to fight Trump, it's almost as though you have a winning chance. And what you're missing is, you can fight Trump, but what else you going to do? What else you got for me? We know that Trump is the problem, but it's like, he's using, his bully pulpit through Congress, through the Senate, through the House of Representatives to, get the America that we have right now. So not just Black American voters, but just all who are just, we're sick of Trump, give us some relief. You sound like you know what you're talking about. You sound like you know what you're doing. I really don't know your platform. I really don't know what you're for, what you're against. But as long as you just say, I'm going to fight Trump, okay, you've got my back. And that is very dangerous. If I could just quickly say, with the gutting of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, not just only in this DC area, but throughout the country, we are going to have to, it's almost like we're going to be forced to go back into politics in which, we have to, make those demands for our community. You're going to have large swaths of the South that weren't only like Republican, but now are little pockets of Democratic cities are now going to be gerrymandered congressionally into Republican voting districts. So now it won't be a case of having a flex of, okay, I'm gonna vote Republican. It's like, okay, like, well, what's your platform? What are you voting for? And it's like, well, there's not going to be any power, or at least less power in that Democratic vote. It's now like, the Republicans are eating a whole. So now will you look for a Republican that can speak for you, that can speak for your community? Or are you still going to just stay stagnant in the fact that I can't vote for them and somehow somebody's going to throw a Hail Mary and defeat the bad guy at the top of the hill, when like, no, you got to go through several other levels on the hill to, make changes in your community. So that's the thing. It's not so much like what Chris said, party wise, it's everybody's voting at Trump. We got to do something about Trump. And I'm not so much very weary, but I am concerned when the only thing you can do is put on your like a campaign commercial, I can fight Trump, I can defeat Trump. And it sounds attractive, but if you understand any semblance of politics, it's like there are a lot of fun stage bosses you got to go through to defeat that final boss, which is Trump. So I'll leave it at that.
Brother Mark, can I add one thing real quick to what Brother Marshall was saying? Just real quick before we hear from Brother Mike too. So by the way, one thing to just also pay attention to, I want to just flag this for y'all too. So California, this sort of touches on a little bit what we said earlier, but California was the first state to respond to Texas per the redistricting, and we then gerrymandered our own state here, right? To compete with Texas. So it's actually, so Brother Mike, it's wild, but our states are like doing these things. But I just wanted to flag that, just point of make a point that there's some evidence right now that may be backfiring here in California. There are two races actually where that were supposed to be gerrymandered to remove Republicans from those areas and from representation, where the Republicans who were supposed to be removed are actually winning their races. And that I think you should pay attention to, because the margins in DC are very thin. So if we were supposed to go up 5 on you and we only go up 3 on you, so now you're 2 less than you thought. That I mean, I think the margin right now in Congress is 2, isn't it? 2, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it's something like that, right?
It's like 220 to 216, something like that. Yeah.
Right, close, right? Very close, right?
3. Yeah.
So right, so it's thin, right? So that's what happened here in California, and specifically in those 2 races. And I think it's Kevin Kiley's race in California's 3rd district, and I forgot the other one. By the way, in Kevin Kiley's district, he's the Republican who was trying to be removed. He's winning. He changed his party to run as an independent and is now winning. The second place person, I think, is a Republican. So very, very interesting races and how they're going to impact what's going on. Just wanted to flag that, but back to this question here too. Just wanted to make a point here too. So I think Brother Marshall was also touching on this as well. One of the problems I think facing our particular community voters over this midterms, I think, is what's one of the things that's always been there, which is the civics problem, right? And Mark, you were talking about that earlier when you were talking about civics. The general not having knowledge about the systems and the government processes is no matter what election you're in or cycle you're in, that's going to be one of your biggest problems, no matter what. So just like structurally, right? Structurally, that's a persistent problem for us across elections. It's going to be one here. Oh, but also just to throw a little shade here. A couple of our other biggest problems are the damn candidates themselves. Okay, the people running for office are the problem.
100%.
Okay.
100%. 100.
Okay. All right. Let's just be real.
Looking good and doing good are 2 different things.
All right. Okay. The people running for office are a problem and the problem. Okay. All right. And let's keep it real. The people who aren't telling us to vote for these people are the problem, part of the problem to the so-called leadership, the legacy leadership, of like the political legacy leadership of our community. These legacy long organizations and groups, and even some of the newer groups now who are very connected to them in many ways, but who are all in some way working for the party, right? Let's just be real. And that's another persistent structural problem, which is that politically speaking, our contributors, our political, the people who are supposed to be leading us politically, supposed to be leading us in the right direction, are just a part of the political party in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Mike at Texas, y'all are doing it. I think is Mike still here?
I'm here. My apologies. I don't know what's going on with my camera.
Okay. So for you, the same question. What are we gonna get wrong in Texas, man?
I agree with what the brother said already. Particularly around the candidates being piss poor at best, and I think not tailoring their policy issues to what's going on in the community, just taking boilerplate DNC, this is what I'm going to stand for type deal. And I don't think they do enough listening to what the public is saying. And I've experienced that personally. This is not me just shooting off the hip. And yes, voter apathy, the lack of civics for some of our folks, because they don't know, what that politician means for their community, if anything. We've experienced that, in surveys that we've done to the public. People just don't generally understand, and that's a failure of our education system, which again, we can have a whole broadcast about some of the structural challenges that we have. I think for Texas, it's Houston specific. I think some of the things that are going on are really just tie back to voter apathy. I think we'll see an uptick in voters in November, but again, it's not a presidential election. We all acknowledge Trump is bad. We've seen some Republicans kind of, position themselves primarily because they know this is Trump's last term. So I think they're trying to shave off their reputation from Trump. And I think you see that a little bit in some of these redistricting ballots in Mississippi. The governor said, no, we're not going to do this cycle. We're not doing this. There was another state where they said the same thing. We're not going to do this. And so back to the question, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Some of the challenges, we as community members have to address internally, particularly around the civics education. That's why broadcasts like this are so important. But the candidates got to get better, man. The candidates got to get better. They got to listen. That you can't just take DNC consultant, DNC national, boilerplate. These are our terms and conditions, so to speak, and try to engage that in some of these communities where they have like real concerns. Like, have we successfully addressed what went on in Flint? Have we successfully addressed what went on in Mississippi and Alabama in terms of the water crisis and things like that? Have we addressed that? No. And a lot of times we hear finger pointing. Well, it's this one's fault. It's this one's fault. Part of the reason why we haven't gotten momentum in reparations here in Texas is because we've got Democrats saying, well, Republicans in power, they're not going to do anything, or, even the non-Black Democrats that we've engaged. Well, you're going to have to get the Hispanic caucus on board. You're going to have to get the Asian caucus on board. And, you guys are going to have to do a lot more work before I support it. And so it's like, okay. So the candidates are gonna have to be better, man. They're gonna have to be better, and we're gonna have to push more of our people and get more in their face.
Yeah, exactly. So y'all heard that, and that's gonna be our time for today. I appreciate y'all coming chatting with us today. Y'all brought some receipts. So I'm gonna drop these dates one more time. So December, I've been saying in DC, you got June 16th. That's 9 days away. Early voting is going on now. So if you care about the mayor's race, get out there. You care about Eleanor Horton's seat, get out there and vote. Maryland, June 23rd, 2 weeks away. And then Virginia, August the 4th.
Yeah.
You got that runway. Don't waste it. Texas and California are in general election mode. So, California is still in primary mode because they don't know who's going to be in the race yet. So they don't know who's going to be in the LA mayor. We don't know if it's going to be Rahman or Bass or Pratt in LA. We don't know who the governor going to be. And then we got some listening sessions. St. Paul reparations listening session. You got to read Roots in Elk Grove. That is happening on June 13th, both happening on the same day. You got genealogy things going on all throughout California, so you can go to CJAC-official.org to check that out. June 20th, Holly Springs, Mississippi, Juneteenth Parade. Be there. So this was Black Civics Collective. I am the guest host today, Mark Stevenson. So y'all stay engaged, stay informed. And until next time, y'all will see Friday Jones back on the next one. And thank you all so much for tuning in.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
Yes, happy Father's Day. Yes.
So happy Father's Day.
Yes.
Go.